The alarm rang through Meridian Prime Station at exactly 3 in the morning, Galactic Standard Time. Nari jumped from her sleep pod, her heart racing. As the Valerian ambassador to the Galactic Council, she had heard emergency alerts before, but this one felt different. This one was personal. She rushed to the communication center, her blue skin pale with worry. The message was coming from Refuge 7, her home colony. The colony where her sister lived. The colony where 40,000 Valerians had built peaceful lives farming and studying the local ecosystem. The message was breaking up, filled with static and the sounds of explosions. A voice she recognized as Colony Director Ven spoke in terror. "This is Refuge 7. We are under attack. The Kraven swarm has breached our outer defenses. We have minimal weapons. Our shields will fail in 4 days. Please, anyone help us." Nari felt her legs go weak. The Kraven swarm. Everyone in the galaxy knew that name and feared it. They were raiders who traveled in huge fleets, stripping planets of everything valuable and taking survivors as slaves. They showed no mercy. They took no prisoners except those they could sell. She immediately requested an emergency council session. Within an hour, representatives from 20 different species gathered in the council chamber. Nari stood before them, trying to keep her voice steady as she played the distress call. "We must send military aid immediately," she pleaded. 40,000 civilians are going to die if we don't act now." The Council's military coordinator, a tall insectoid being named Velmora, checked her datapad. Her face fell. "Ambassador Nari, I understand your concern, but we have a serious problem. All of our defense fleets are currently engaged in border conflicts. The nearest available fleet is the 4th Squadron, and they are 3 weeks away." 3 weeks? Nari's voice cracked. "They have 4 days!" The council chamber fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. By the time help arrived, Refugee 7 would be nothing but smoking ruins. Taiyang sat in the observer section, watching this unfold. He was young for a diplomat, only 32 years old, and humans were still new to the Galactic Council. Earth had only been part of the galactic community for 12 years. Most species still saw humans as inexperienced newcomers who had barely figured out faster-than-light travel. But Taiyang knew something the Council didn't know, something that Earth had kept very quiet. He stood up, his voice carrying across the chamber. "Excuse me, honored council members, Earth may be able to help." Several representatives turned to look at him, some with curiosity, others with barely hidden amusement. A few even laughed. Velmora spoke gently, as if explaining something to a child. "Ambassador Taiyang, we appreciate the offer. But this is the Kraven swarm. They have over 200 warships in that attack fleet. Earth has only been spacefaring for 150 years. Your species simply doesn't have the military capability to handle a threat like this." Taiyang didn't argue. He simply pulled out his communication device and made a call. The council watched, some curious, some skeptical. The call connected. A stern face appeared on the holographic display. Admiral Jinho of Earth's United Defense Command looked tired, like he had been woken from sleep, but his eyes were sharp and focused. "Ambassador Taiyang," Jinho said, "what's the situation?" "Admiral, we have a colony under attack by the Kraven swarm. 40,000 civilians. They have 4 days before their shields fail. The Council's nearest fleet is 3 weeks out." Jinho was quiet for a moment. Then he asked just one question. "How many innocents?" 40,000, sir. All civilians. Farmers, teachers, families." Jinho nodded slowly. "Send me the coordinates." Taiyang transmitted the data. The Admiral looked at something off-screen, probably a star map. Then he looked back at the camera. "We're coming out," Jinho said. 3 words. No hesitation, no debate. The connection ended. The council chamber erupted in confused chatter. Velmora approached Taiyang. "What did he mean, coming out?" Taiyang took a breath. The fleet that's stationed in our home system. We call it the Home Defense Fleet. Another council member laughed. Your home defense fleet? Against the Kraven swarm? This is madness. How many ships do you even have? I'm not sure of the exact number, Taiyang admitted. The fleet composition changes, but they should be powering up right now. Velmora pulled up the council's sensor network, the one that monitored all major activity in member systems. She focused on Earth's solar system. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then her eyes went wide. Impossible, she whispered. Power signatures were lighting up all over Earth's moon, Mars, and several orbital stations, not small signatures. Massive ones, the kind of power signatures that came from military vessels preparing for combat. How many ships is that? Someone asked. Velmora counted, her hands shaking slightly. I'm reading 47 distinct power signatures. 12 of them they're enormous, dreadnought class or larger. The chamber went silent again. This time the silence was different. This time it was fear mixed with confusion. Humans don't have dreadnoughts, another representative said. Your species barely has deep space exploration capability. Taiyang said nothing. He just waited. The sensors showed Earth's fleet moving into formation. They were heading toward the nearest jump gate, the massive structures that allowed ships to cross vast distances of space in seconds. They're really coming, Velmora said, her voice filled with disbelief. But they'll never make it in time. It's a 4-day journey even at maximum FTL speed. Taiyang allowed himself a small smile. Admiral Jinho is very motivated when civilian lives are at stake. And our engines are newer than most. The council watched on the sensors as the human fleet entered the jump gate. Energy readings spiked off the charts as 47 ships vanished from Earth's system. Velmora immediately contacted the monitoring stations along the route to Refuge 7. Track that fleet. I want to know their speed, their capabilities, everything. Reports started coming in. The human fleet was moving fast. Faster than any council ship on record, not just a little faster. They were covering distance at speeds that seemed to violate known physics. They're going to reach Refuge 7 in 3 days, a technician reported, his voice stunned. Maybe less. Nari felt hope bloom in her chest for the first time since hearing the distress call. Maybe her sister would survive. Maybe they all would. But Velmora looked worried. Even if they arrive in time, what can they do? The Kraven have 200 warships, battle-tested raiders with centuries of combat experience. Earth has 47 ships crewed by a species that hasn't fought a space battle in their entire history. Taiyang met her eyes. I guess we'll find out, won't we? Deep in space, the human fleet raced toward Refuge 7. In the command center of the flagship UDS Indomitable, Admiral Jinho studied the tactical data. 40,000 civilians, 4 days, 200 enemy ships. He had faced worse odds before, not in space, but on Earth during the resource wars. He remembered cities burning. He remembered the desperate fights to protect refugee camps from warlords and raiders. Never again, he had promised himself. Never again would he stand by while innocent people died. All ships, battle stations, he ordered. We're going in hot. The deadliest fleet Earth had ever built was going to war, and the galaxy was about to learn why humanity had spent the last century preparing for the worst. Warlord Thexnar sat on his command throne aboard the flagship Bloodtaker, watching the siege of Refuge 7 with satisfaction. The Valerian colony was almost broken. Their shields flickered and weakened with each passing hour. Soon his ground troops would storm in and take everything of value. He scratched his scaled chin with one claw. The Valerians were weak, like most species in this part of the galaxy. They had no weapons worth mentioning, no military training. They had relied on the Galactic Council for protection, and the Council had abandoned them. Fools. Warlord, his second-in-command approached. The outer defense grid has collapsed. We can begin landing troops within 20 hours. Good, Thexanar growled. Remember, I want the skilled workers alive. Engineers, doctors, scientists. They'll bring good prices at the slave markets. Everyone else is just bonus. He had done this 100 times before. The Kraven swarm had perfected the art of raiding. They hit colonies far from council protection, took what they wanted, and vanished before any real military force could respond. It was profitable. It was easy. Far above Refuge 7's atmosphere, Admiral Jinho stood on the bridge of the UDS Indomitable, studying the tactical display. The massive view screen showed the Kraven fleet in detail, 214 ships to be exact. They were arranged in a loose formation around the planet, focusing their bombardment on the colony's shield generators. 3 days of hard travel, Commander Hana said from her station beside him. We made good time. Jinho nodded. His crew was exhausted from the high-speed journey, but they were ready. They had to be. 40,000 lives depended on what happened in the next few hours. Status report, he ordered. Hana pulled up data on her screen. All ships report ready for combat. Captain Hyunwoo has the carrier Valkyrie positioned for drone deployment. Commander Suji has her stealth frigates already moving into position. The Kraven sensors can't detect them. Captain Donghyun reports all artillery ships are locked and loaded. And our surprise is still secure? Yes, sir. The Kraven have no idea we're here yet. Their sensors are old, outdated. They're not even watching their backs. Jinho allowed himself a thin smile. The Kraven's arrogance would be their downfall. They thought they were the predators here. They were wrong. Send a tight beam communication to the council observers, Jinho said. Tell them to watch carefully. They're about to see what happens when you threaten human civilians. Sir, Refuge 7 isn't a human colony, Hana pointed out gently. Doesn't matter, Jinho replied. They're innocent people calling for help. That makes them our responsibility now. He studied the tactical situation. The Kraven fleet was focused entirely on the planet. They weren't expecting an attack. They had superior numbers and firepower, or so they thought. But numbers didn't mean everything in warfare. Strategy mattered, technology mattered, and most importantly, motivation mattered. The Kraven were here for profit. The humans were here to save lives. That made all the difference. Thexanar was reviewing the profit calculations when his sensor officer suddenly stood up, mandibles clicking in alarm. Warlord! I'm detecting multiple ships dropping out of FTL at the edge of the system. Thexanar frowned. The Council fleet? They're not supposed to be here for weeks. These aren't Council signatures, sir. I'm reading 47 vessels, unknown configuration. They're accelerating toward us at high speed. 47 ships. Thexanar laughed. Some minor species probably thought they could play hero. Fools. He had 200 warships. This would be an easy kill. Send 80 ships to intercept and destroy them, he ordered. Let's finish this quickly so we can get back to the real work. 80 Kraven warships broke from the siege formation and burned toward the approaching human fleet. They were experienced raiders, confident in their superiority. They had fought dozens of species and always won. Admiral Jinho watched the 80 enemy ships approach on his tactical display. Hana stood ready at her station, her fingers hovering over the weapons controls. They're sending less than half their fleet, she observed. They're underestimating us. Let them, Jinho said quietly. It's the last mistake they'll ever make. All ships, weapons free. Execute attack pattern Delta 7. The human fleet didn't slow down. They didn't try to negotiate. They just opened fire. The first volley caught the Kraven completely by surprise. Railgun rounds, accelerated to a fraction of light speed, tore through Kraven shields like they were made of paper. The humans had studied every piece of data available on Kraven ship design. They knew exactly where to hit. Missiles followed, smart weapons that dodged and weaved through defensive fire. They didn't just explode on impact. They were designed to punch through armor and detonate inside the target ship, destroying critical systems. Energy weapons blazed across the void, not the standard particle beams the Kraven were used to. These were focused plasma cutters that could slice through hulls in seconds. The 80 Kraven ships tried to fight back. They returned fire with their own weapons. But the human ships moved with precision that seemed impossible. They dodged, they weaved, they coordinated their movements like a school of fish, each ship covering the others. Captain Hyunwoo sat in the command chair of the carrier Valkyrie, watching his combat drones swarm around the enemy ships. Each drone was controlled by advanced artificial intelligence that could process information and react faster than any biological pilot. They moved in perfect coordination, striking weak points, drawing fire away from the larger ships. Commander Suji watched from her stealth frigate Shadow Knife as her ship slipped through the battle undetected. The Kraven still didn't know the humans had stealth technology. Her ship and her 5 sister ships positioned themselves behind the enemy formation. When Suji gave the order, all 6 ships fired at once, hitting the Kraven from behind where they had minimal armor. Captain Dongyun commanded the artillery ship Thunderhead from 200,000 kilometers away. His weapons crew calculated firing solutions with mathematics that would make old Earth physicists weep with joy. Each railgun shot was precisely aimed, accounting for the target's movement, the curvature of space, even the gravitational pull of nearby planets. They didn't miss. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, 73 Kraven ships were destroyed or crippled beyond repair. 7 more were trying to limp away, their engines damaged, their weapons offline. The human fleet had not lost a single ship. A few had minor damage. None had casualties. On Meridian Prime Station, the Council observers stared at their screens in shocked silence. Velmora's hands shook as she reviewed the battle data. "Impossible," she whispered. "No species can fight like that. No one." Taeyang stood beside her, saying nothing. His face was carefully neutral, but inside he felt pride. Earth had revealed its secret, and the revelation was terrifying. On the Blood Taker, Warlord Thexnar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. He had just lost 80 ships in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. He had been raiding for 30 years and had never seen anything like this. "What are they?" he demanded. "What species fights with such precision?" His sensor officer checked the data. "Sir, I'm picking up identification signals now. They're humans. From Earth." Humans? Thexnar had heard of them. New species, barely in space. They weren't supposed to be dangerous. "Impossible. Humans are weak. They have no military tradition." "Sir, with respect, I think we need to reconsider that assessment." Thexnar growled. He still had 134 ships. He could still win this. He would form a defensive formation, use the colony shields as cover, and destroy these humans when they came closer. "All ships, pull back to the planet. Form defensive wall formation. Prepare for the enemy's approach." The Kraven fleet reorganized, creating a barrier between the humans and Refuge 7. Thexnar activated his communication system. It was time to make these humans understand who they were dealing with. Admiral Jinho received the incoming transmission. Hana looked at him questioningly. "Put it through," Jinho said. A reptilian face appeared on the view screen. Warlord Thexanar spoke in broken galactic common, his voice full of threat. "Human ships. You got lucky. You surprised us, but we still outnumber you. Leave now, or we destroy you all." Jinho looked at the Kraven warlord with cold eyes. When he spoke, his voice was calm, but carried the weight of absolute certainty. "This is Admiral Jinho of Earth's United Defense Command. Warlord, you have attacked innocent civilians. You have threatened 40,000 lives. You have one chance, and only one chance, to make this right. Withdraw your forces immediately. Leave this system. Release any captives you have taken. If you do this, we will allow you to leave alive." Thexnar laughed. "You dare threaten me? I have 134 warships. You have 47. The mathematics favor me, human." Jinho's expression didn't change. "Warlord, you're making a mistake. We didn't come here to fight. We came here to protect. But if you force our hand, you will learn a hard truth. Earth doesn't start wars. We end them." Warlord Thexnar cut the transmission with a slash of his claw. The human admiral's words echoed in his mind, but he pushed them aside. He was Kraven. His species had ruled the raiding lanes for centuries. No newcomer species would tell him what to do. "All ships, open fire on the human fleet," he commanded. "Target their flagship first. I want that arrogant admiral dead." 134 Kraven warships unleashed their weapons. Energy bolts, missiles, and kinetic rounds streaked through space toward the human formation. It was enough firepower to level a city, enough to overwhelm any normal fleet. But the human fleet wasn't normal. "Evasive maneuvers," Commander Hana ordered calmly. "Execute pattern Epsilon 3. The human ships moved. They didn't scatter randomly. They moved as one unit, like a living thing. Ships that had been in a line formation suddenly split into a sphere, then reformed into a wedge. The Kraven weapons, aimed at where the ships had been, found empty space instead. Only 3 shots hit their targets. Minor damage. Nothing critical. Admiral Jinho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the battle unfold with the calm of a man who had seen war before. Real war. The kind that happened on Earth during the darkest years of the 21st century. "Commander Suji," he spoke into his comm, "are your stealth ships in position?" From somewhere in the black between the stars, Commander Suji's voice came back. "Yes, sir. We're scattered throughout their formation. They still can't see us." "Captain Hyunwoo, are your drones ready?" "Launch bays are hot, Admiral. Just give the word." "Captain Dong-Yun, artillery solutions?" "Calculated and locked, sir. We have firing solutions on every enemy ship." Jinho took a breath. He didn't enjoy this. War was never enjoyable. But sometimes it was necessary. Sometimes, to protect the innocent, you had to become something terrible. "All units," he said quietly. "Show them why Earth doesn't lose." The battle that followed would be remembered in galactic history for centuries. Historians would call it the refuge lesson. Military academies would study it. Soldiers would speak of it in whispered tones. Commander Suji's 6 stealth frigates struck first. They had been invisible, drifting through the Kraven formation like ghosts. Now they opened fire from point-blank range. Their weapons targeted engine sections and command centers. The Kraven fleet suddenly found enemies in their midst, firing from directions they couldn't predict. Chaos rippled through the Kraven lines. Ships turned to face the new threats, breaking formation. That's when Captain Hyunwoo released his drones. The carrier Valkyrie's bay doors opened, and a swarm of 300 combat drones erupted into space. They weren't large, each one about the size of a car, but they moved with inhuman precision because they weren't piloted by humans. They were controlled by advanced artificial intelligence that processed information 1,000 times faster than biological brains. The drones swarmed over the Kraven ships like angry hornets. They targeted weapon systems, sensor arrays, shield generators. Each drone carried enough explosive power to cripple critical systems. And there were hundreds of them. Thexnar watched in growing horror as his fleet fell apart. Ships were colliding with each other as they tried to track the fast-moving drones. The invisible human ships were still firing from within his formation, and he hadn't even seen the main human battle line engage yet. "Reform! Reform the wall!" he screamed at his commanders. "Focus fire on the drones!" Some of his ships managed to destroy drones, but for every drone they killed, it seemed like 2 more took its place. and while the Kraven were distracted, Captain Dong-hyun's artillery ships opened fire. The mathematics of artillery fire in space combat was incredibly complex. You had to account for the target's speed, the curvature of space, gravity from nearby celestial bodies, even the expansion of the universe over long distances. Most species found it too difficult to be practical. Humans loved mathematics. The artillery ship Thunderhead and its sister ships fired their railguns from 200,000 kilometers away. Solid metal slugs, each one the size of a car, accelerated to incredible speeds. They crossed the distance in seconds. The first volley hit 15 Kraven ships simultaneously. The slugs punched through shields like they weren't there, through armor like it was paper. They hit exactly where the human targeting computer said they would hit. Engine rooms, reactor cores, command bridges. 15 ships died in an instant. No warning, no chance to dodge. "Impossible!" Thexnar roared. "No one can shoot accurately from that range." But Captain Dong-hyun and his crew were already calculating the next volley. They had identified weak points in Kraven's ship design from the first battle. Now they exploited those weaknesses with surgical precision. The main human battle line advanced. The dreadnoughts and heavy cruisers that made up the core of Admiral Jinho's fleet began to fire their primary weapons. Focused plasma beams that could cut through a ship from bow to stern. Missile pods that released smart weapons capable of independent thought. Point defense systems that shot down every incoming projectile with computer-guided accuracy. Commander Hana coordinated it all from her station. She watched the tactical display, moving ships like pieces on a chessboard. When a Kraven ship tried to flank, she had 3 human ships waiting. When the enemy tried to concentrate fire, she pulled the targets back and sent in drones to distract. The Kraven were experienced fighters. They had won dozens of battles, but they had never fought an enemy like this. An enemy that thought faster, moved better, and shot with impossible accuracy. Onboard Refuge 7, the Valerian colonists watched the battle from their bunkers. Their shields were down to 10% power. They had been preparing to die, but now, through the static-filled view screens, they saw human ships dancing between Kraven vessels, destroying them one by one. Colony Director Ven couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Who are these humans?" he whispered. In 15 minutes, the Kraven had lost 50 more ships. The human fleet still hadn't taken a single loss. A few ships had damage, but nothing critical. Nothing that stopped them from fighting. Thexnar finally understood. He was going to lose. The realization hit him like a physical blow. His species didn't lose. The Kraven swarm was unstoppable. But here, today, they were being destroyed by a species barely out of their own solar system. "All ships scatter," he ordered. "Break formation and run! Get to FTL distance!" The remaining 84 Kraven ships tried to flee. They broke in all directions, each one trying to reach the distance where they could jump to faster-than-light speed and escape. Commander Hana had predicted this. She had studied every battle the Kraven had ever fought. She knew they would try to run when things went bad. She had positioned human ships on every likely escape route. "Execute containment," Admiral Jinho ordered. The human fleet moved with practiced efficiency. Ships that had been holding back suddenly appeared in the paths of fleeing Kraven vessels. The message was clear: you're not leaving. But Jinho wasn't a monster. He didn't want total destruction. He wanted to send a message. "Target their FTL drives only," he commanded. "Disable them. Don't destroy them." It was harder to disable a ship than to destroy it. You had to be precise. You had to care about keeping the crew alive. But the human weapons crews were up to the task. Precision strikes hit 79 Kraven ships, knocking out their faster-than-light engines. The ships went dead in space, unable to jump away, but still intact. The crews were alive, but trapped. 5 ships managed to reach FTL distance. Admiral Jinho let them go. "Sir, we can still catch them," Hana said. "Let them run," Jinho replied. I want survivors. I want them to take a message back to Kraven space. I want every raider in the galaxy to know what happens when you attack innocents under Earth's protection." The battle was over. Of the 214 Kraven ships that had attacked Refuge 7, 5 had escaped. 84 were disabled and drifting. The rest were destroyed. The human fleet had 47 ships. All 47 were still operational. On Meridian Prime Station, the Council observers sat in stunned silence. They had just watched a military engagement that defied everything they thought they knew about warfare. The humans hadn't just won, they had dominated. Velmora turned to Tai Yang. Her voice shook. "What have you brought to the galaxy?" Tai Yang met her eyes. "Protection," he said simply. "We brought protection." On the Blood Taker, Warlord Thexnar slumped in his command throne. His FTL drive was destroyed. His fleet was gone. His reputation was ruined. He had been defeated by a species he had dismissed as weak newcomers. An incoming transmission request appeared on his screen. The human flagship. With a shaking claw, he accepted it. Admiral Jinho appeared on the screen. His face was stern, but not cruel. "Warlord Thexnar, your ships are disabled. Your fleet is defeated, but you and your crews are alive. That was intentional. I could have killed you all." "Why didn't you?" Thexnar asked bitterly. "Because we're not like you," Jinho said. "We don't kill for profit. We don't enslave for pleasure. We fight to protect. And we show mercy when we can." "What happens now?" "Now, you sit in those ships until the Galactic Council arrives to take you into custody. You'll face trial for your crimes. Your raiding days are over." Jinho paused, then leaned forward. His eyes were hard. "And Warlord, I want you to remember something. Remember this day. Remember how easily Earth's fleet defeated you. Then I want you to think about this. We didn't bring our full fleet. We didn't even bring a quarter of it. What you fought today was a rapid response force. A patrol group." Thexnar felt cold fear crawl up his spine. "What?" "Spread the word in whatever prison they put you in," Jinho said quietly. "Tell every raider, every pirate, every slaver in the galaxy. Earth is watching now. And if you threaten innocent people, we will come for you. We will find you, and we will stop you." The transmission ended. Admiral Jinho turned to his crew. "Hana, send medical teams to the disabled ships. Anyone injured gets treatment. Then establish a perimeter and wait for the Council fleet." "Sir," Hana said, "we won. Shouldn't you be celebrating?" Jinho looked out at the debris field, where so many ships had died. "No one wins in war, Commander. We just stopped something terrible from happening. That's not victory. That's just duty." The sun rose over Refuge 7 for the first time in 4 days, without the shadow of death hanging over it. The Kraven fleet was gone. The orbital bombardment had stopped. The colonists emerged from their bunkers, blinking in the light, hardly daring to believe they had survived. Ambassador Nari stood at the communications console aboard the Council observation ship, her hands pressed against the display screen as she watched the live feed from the colony. Tears ran down her blue cheeks. Her sister was alive. The children were alive. Everyone was alive. "They saved them," she whispered. "The humans actually saved them." Beside her, Velmora was looking at a different screen. This one showed the debris field where the battle had occurred. She was analyzing the wreckage, trying to understand what she had just witnessed. The data made no sense. No species should be able to fight with such precision. No weapons should be that accurate. No fleet coordination should be that perfect. "Ambassador Taiyang," Velmora said, her voice carefully controlled. "I need you to explain something to me. How long has Earth possessed this level of military capability?" Taiyang stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the human fleet establish orbit around Refuge 7. Medical ships were already descending to the surface. We've had defensive capabilities since before we joined the Council, he said honestly. We just didn't advertise them. Defensive capabilities? Velmora's voice rose. You just destroyed a fleet 4 times your size. You have weapons technology decades beyond anything the Council possesses. That's not defense, that's preparation, Taeyang finished. That's preparation for the worst. Before Velmora could respond, Admiral Jinho's face appeared on the main communication screen. Council observers, this is Admiral Jinho. We're beginning humanitarian operations on Refuge 7. We have medical supplies, food, and repair equipment. Request permission to land assistance teams. Velmora composed herself. Permission granted, Admiral, and thank you. You saved 40,000 lives today. Jinho nodded. Just doing what anyone should do when someone calls for help. On the surface of Refuge 7, Captain Hyunwoo stepped off the landing shuttle and immediately went to work. His crew had trained for disaster relief operations. Earth had plenty of experience with that, unfortunately. Earthquakes, hurricanes, wars, the list went on. Colony Director Ven approached him, still looking dazed. Captain, I don't know how to thank you. We thought we were going to die. Hyunwoo shook his hand. No thanks necessary, but we do need to assess the damage. Can you show me which areas need the most help? For the next 6 hours, human crews worked alongside Valerian colonists. Medical teams treated the injured. Engineers repaired damaged infrastructure. Supply officers distributed food and clean water. The humans moved with efficient compassion, helping without condescension, working without complaint. A young Valerian girl, no more than 8 years old, watched the humans with wide eyes. Her name was Lyra. She had spent 4 days in a dark bunker, listening to explosions, thinking she would never see sunlight again. Now these strange beings from a planet she had never heard of were fixing her school. She approached one of the human engineers, a young woman who was repairing a water purification system. Excuse me, Lyra said quietly. The engineer looked up and smiled. Hello there. Are you okay? Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. I just wanted to ask, why did you come help us? You don't even know us. The engineer sat back on her heels, thinking about the question. You know what? That's a good question. I guess it's because we know what it's like to be scared. Earth has seen some bad times, really bad times. We've been where you are, and when we finally got to the stars, we promised ourselves something. What did you promise? That we would be better. That when we found other people out here, we would help them. That we wouldn't let fear and greed make us into monsters. The engineer smiled. Plus, you called for help. How could we not answer? Lyra thought about this. Then she hugged the engineer, who seemed surprised, but hugged her back. Captain Hyunwoo witnessed this exchange from a distance. He tapped his communicator. Admiral, the colonists are in good spirits. We should have critical systems back online within 48 hours. Good work, Captain, Jinho's voice came back. Keep me updated. Back in orbit, Admiral Jinho was dealing with a different kind of operation. He had agreed to meet with the senior Galactic Council representative, and that meeting was about to begin. Velmora's shuttle docked with the Indomitable. She was escorted to the conference room by Commander Hana, who noted the council representative's nervous glances at the human ship's interior. Everything was clean, efficient, and clearly military in design. In the conference room, Admiral Jinho stood as Velmora entered. Ambassador Velmora, welcome aboard. They sat across from each other. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Velmora broke the silence. I need to understand something, Admiral. Earth has been part of the Galactic Council for 12 years. In all that time, you never mentioned having this level of military power. Why? Jinho folded his hands on the table. Because we didn't want to scare anyone. We've seen what happens when powerful nations show off their weapons. It leads to arms races. It leads to fear. It leads to war. But you have weapons that surpass anything the Council possesses. Your ships move faster. Your weapons are more accurate. Your tactics are more advanced. How is this possible for a species so new to space? Because we're not new to war, Jinho said quietly. Ambassador, do you know Earth's history? Some of it. I know you had global conflicts in the past. Jinho pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared in the air between them. Cities in ruins, refugees fleeing war zones, mushroom clouds rising over devastated landscapes. This is Earth in the 21st century, Jinho said. We nearly destroyed ourselves. 3 global wars, countless regional conflicts. We developed weapons that could wipe out entire cities in seconds. We got very, very good at killing each other. Velmora stared at the images in horror. Then we had what we call the resource wars, Jinho continued. Fresh water was running out. Oil was gone. Climate change was destroying farmland. Nations fought over what was left. Billions died. Billions more suffered. How did you survive? We learned. We changed. We realized that we had 2 choices. Work together or die together. We chose to work together. We formed a united world government. We focused on rebuilding. But we never forgot the lessons we learned. Another image appeared. This one showed massive shipyards in orbit around Earth's moon. When we finally developed faster-than-light travel, we knew we were going out into an unknown universe. We didn't know what was out there, so we prepared for the worst. We built a defensive fleet designed to protect Earth from any threat. We trained crews. We developed weapons. We did all of this not because we wanted to conquer, but because we never wanted to be victims again. Velmora was quiet, processing this. And when you joined the Council? We were honest about having defensive capabilities, but we didn't explain the full extent. We watched. We learned about galactic politics. We studied other species' military capabilities. We realized that if we revealed our full strength, it would cause fear and suspicion. So we kept quiet. Until today. Until today, Jinho agreed. When 40,000 innocent people called for help and no one could answer, we had to make a choice. Stay hidden or save lives. We chose lives. Velmora looked at him carefully. The Council is in emergency session right now. Some members are calling for sanctions against Earth. Others want to contain you. They're afraid of what you might do with this power. Are you afraid, Ambassador? She thought about it. I was. But then I watched your crews on Refuge 7. I saw them treating injured Valarians with the same care they would give their own people. I saw a human engineer explaining to a child why you came to help. I saw mercy where you could have shown cruelty. She leaned forward. But Admiral, I need to know. What are Earth's intentions? What do you plan to do now that your power is revealed? Jinho stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, Refuge 7 turned slowly, peaceful now that the threat was gone. We want to help, he said simply. The galaxy is a dangerous place. The Council does its best, but you're stretched thin. You can't be everywhere. We can help fill those gaps. We can respond to emergencies. We can protect colonies that are too far from Council protection. You want to be the galaxy's police force? No. We want to be the galaxy's emergency responders. When someone calls for help and no one else can answer, we want to be there. We don't want territory. We don't want to rule. We just want to make sure that what happened here never happens again. Velmora stood as well. The Council will never agree to give Earth that kind of free rein. They're too afraid. Then help us find a compromise, Jinho said. We're willing to work within Council oversight, joint command structures, transparency, whatever it takes to build trust. But we won't stand by and watch innocent people die when we have the power to save them. They stood in silence, watching the planet below. Finally, Velmora spoke. I'll advocate for you in the Council. I'll explain what I saw here. But, Admiral, you need to understand something. You've changed the balance of power in the galaxy today. Things will never be the same. I know, Jinho said, but maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe the galaxy needs to change. On Refuge 7, as the human crews continued their relief work, word spread through the colony about what had happened. The humans had traveled across the galaxy to save people they didn't know. They had fought a battle against impossible odds, and they had won. Little Lyra stood with her mother, watching a human shuttle take off, carrying supplies to a damaged settlement on the other side of the continent. "Mama," she said, "when I grow up, I want to be like them." Her mother hugged her close. "Like the humans?" "Yes, I want to help people. I want to answer when someone calls for help." Her mother smiled through her tears. "I think that's a wonderful goal, little one." Above them, Earth's fleet maintained its vigil, standing guard over the people they had saved. 2 weeks after the Battle of Refuge 7, the Galactic Council chamber on Meridian Prime was filled to capacity. Representatives from every member species crowded the seats. The gallery was packed with observers, journalists, and diplomats. Everyone wanted to witness this historic moment. The question before the council was simple but profound. What to do about Earth? Ambassador Tae Yang stood in the center of the chamber, facing the semicircle of council representatives. He could feel the tension in the air, fear, suspicion, hope, and gratitude all mixed together in a volatile combination. Senior Counselor Velmora called the session to order. "We are here to discuss Earth's military capabilities and their implications for galactic security. Ambassador Tae Yang, the Council has questions." "I'm ready to answer them," Tae Yang replied calmly. A representative from the Daxari species stood. "Ambassador, your fleet destroyed 200 Kraven warships with minimal losses. You possess weapons technology beyond anything the Council has access to. This represents a significant threat to galactic peace. What guarantee can you give us that Earth won't use this power for conquest?" Before Tae Yang could answer, another voice spoke from the gallery. "I can answer that question." Everyone turned. Ambassador Nari stood, her blue skin reflecting the chamber's lights. "May I address the council?" Velmora nodded. "You may speak, Ambassador Nari." Nari walked to stand beside Tae Yang. 2 weeks ago, my home colony was under attack. 40,000 of my people faced certain death. The council could not help us. Our fleet was too far away. We were abandoned to our fate. She looked around the chamber. But Earth answered. They didn't ask for payment. They didn't demand territory. They didn't negotiate terms. They just came. And when the battle was over, when they could have claimed Refugee 7 as a prize of war, do you know what they did? Silence filled the chamber. They asked if we needed medical help. They sent engineers to fix our infrastructure. They shared their food and supplies. A human captain named Hyunwoo worked 16 hours straight helping rebuild our school. A human engineer taught our children about hope. Nari's voice grew stronger. If Earth wanted to conquer, they could have started with us. We were helpless. Instead, they saved us. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Tae Yang noticed that the mood was shifting, if only slightly. Another representative stood. But the power they possess is unprecedented. How do we know this won't change? How do we know Earth won't become aggressive once they realize their full strength? This time, a holographic communication channel opened. Admiral Jinho appeared, projected in the center of the chamber. He had been invited to address the council directly. "Counselors," Jinho said, "I understand your fear. You see our weapons, our ships, our capabilities, and you worry. That's smart. That's good leadership. But let me tell you something about Earth's history that might help you understand us." He pulled up a display showing Earth from space. "This is my home world. Beautiful, isn't it? 300 years ago it was dying. We poisoned it with our wars and our greed. We almost destroyed ourselves completely. The image changed, showing historical footage of Earth's darkest days. We learned what happens when power is used without responsibility. We learned the cost of aggression. We learned that violence solves nothing and creates only more violence. Another image appeared, this one showing children in a refugee camp. "This is me," Jinho said quietly. "I'm the small boy in the center. I was 7 years old during the resource wars. I watched my parents die. I spent 3 years in that camp, wondering if I would survive to see 8 years old." The chamber was completely silent now. "I built Earth's defensive fleet," Jinho continued. "I chose the commanders. I approved the weapon systems. I did all of this with one memory burning in my mind, the memory of being helpless while people died around me. I swore that if I ever had the power to stop that from happening, I would use it." He looked around at the assembled representatives. "You ask what guarantee you have that Earth won't become conquerors? I'll give you the best guarantee I can. We've already been conquerors. We've already been aggressors. We've already tried violence and domination. It nearly killed us. We learned our lesson in blood and fire. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to make sure no one else has to feel the way I felt in that refugee camp." Velmora spoke softly. "Admiral, what is it that Earth wants from the Council?" "Permission to help," Jinho said simply. "We want to establish what we're calling a rapid response fleet. It would be positioned at strategic points throughout Council space. When emergencies happen, when colonies are attacked, when disasters strike, we want to be able to respond quickly." "Operating independently?" another counselor asked with suspicion. "No," Taeyang interjected. "Earth proposes joint command. Human ships, but with Council oversight, full transparency, regular inspections. You can monitor everything we do. We're willing to operate within your rules because we respect your authority." A representative from the Chirix species clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "And what does Earth gain from this arrangement?" Taeyang smiled slightly. "The opportunity to prove ourselves, the chance to show the galaxy that power can be used for good. And honestly, the satisfaction of knowing we're making the galaxy safer." The debate continued for hours. Some representatives remained suspicious. Others were cautiously optimistic. A few were enthusiastically supportive, especially those whose colonies were far from Council protection. Finally, Velmora called for a vote. "The proposal is this. Earth will establish a rapid response fleet under Joint Earth Council command. The fleet will be authorized to respond to emergency situations when Council forces cannot. Earth will maintain full transparency and submit to regular inspections. All in favor?" The voting began. Taeyang stood quietly, watching the display as votes were tallied. Green lights for yes, red lights for no. The count was close, very close. The final tally appeared. The motion passed by 7 votes. Taeyang felt his shoulders relax. They had done it. Earth would be allowed to help protect the galaxy. Velmora stood. "Let it be recorded that this day the Galactic Council and Earth have entered into the Terran Accord. May this partnership bring safety to all who dwell among the stars." 3 days later, Captain Dong Yun stood on the bridge of his ship, now designated as the first official Terran Accord liaison vessel. He had been appointed to work directly with the Council Defense Committee. It was a role that required diplomacy as much as military skill. His first assignment was already in progress. A colony in the Outer Rim had suffered a massive earthquake. Council relief ships would take a week to arrive. Earth's rapid response fleet could be there in 2 days. "Plot course to the disaster zone," Dong-Yun ordered. "Maximum speed." "Yes, sir," his navigation officer replied. Dong-Hyun looked at the council observer assigned to his ship, a young Valerian named Kess. "Your first mission with us. Nervous?" Kess smiled. "A little, but also excited. I want to learn from you. I want to understand how you do what you do." "We help people," Dong-Yun said simply. That's all we do. On Refuge 7, a monument had been erected in the central colony square. It was made of stone from the local mountains, carved with great care. The inscription was written in Valerian and English, Earth's most widely spoken language. It read, "In memory of those who died in the attack on Refuge 7. In gratitude to those who answered our call. When darkness came, someone brought light. When death approached, someone brought hope. They called for help. Someone answered." Below the inscription were the names of the fallen, and below that, a single line, Earth's Rapid Response Fleet, first response, first to help. Little Lyra visited the monument every day. She would stand there, reading the names, remembering the fear, but also remembering the humans who came from across the galaxy to save her people. True to her word, she had started training. She wanted to be an emergency responder when she grew up. Several other young Valerians had joined her. They called themselves the Refuge Volunteers. They wanted to help others the way Earth had helped them. On Earth, in the United Defense Command headquarters, Admiral Jinho sat in his office reviewing reports. The Rapid Response Fleet was fully deployed now. 12 task forces positioned throughout Council space, each one ready to respond to emergencies within hours. Commander Hana entered with more reports. "Sir, we've completed 3 successful relief missions this month. The Council observers are impressed. They're starting to trust us." "Good," Jinho said. "Trust has to be earned slowly. We'll prove ourselves one mission at a time." "There's something else," Hana said. "We're receiving applications from other species who want to serve in the Rapid Response Fleet. Valerians, Chirics, even a few Daxari. They want to help." Jinho smiled. "Even better. This was never supposed to be just Earth. It's supposed to be everyone who wants to help." He stood and walked to the window. Outside, Earth turned peacefully in the void. Cities sparkled on the night side. Oceans reflected the sun on the day side. It was beautiful. It was home, and it was finally at peace. "You know what the best part is?" Jinho said. "What's that, sir?" "We finally figured out what we're good at. Not war, not conquest, protection. When someone needs help, we answer. That's our purpose now. That's what we're meant to do." Hana joined him at the window. "Do you think the other species will ever stop being afraid of us?" "Some will always be afraid. That's human nature. Well, sentient nature, I suppose. But over time, I think we'll earn their respect, maybe even their friendship. And if another threat emerges, something bigger than the Kraven?" Jinho's expression hardened slightly. "Then we'll be ready. We'll always be ready. That's the price of peace. You hope for the best, but prepare for the worst." Far out in space, beyond Council territory, in the dark regions where pirates and raiders lurked, word was spreading. 5 Kraven survivors had made it back to their home ports, and they had told their story. They spoke of human ships that moved like lightning, of weapons that never missed, of a fleet that destroyed 200 raiders in less than an hour. The message was clear. There were new protectors in the galaxy, and they didn't negotiate with those who preyed on the innocent. Raiding activity near Council space dropped by 60% in the following months. Pirates found easier targets elsewhere. Slavers moved to different regions. The human fleet hadn't conquered anyone. They had simply made it clear that certain behaviors would no longer be tolerated. In a small bar on a trading station, a Kraven mercenary sat drinking, telling stories about the battle. "I'm telling you, I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. The humans, they're not like anyone else. They could have killed us all. Instead, they just stopped us. They showed mercy." "Why?" another patron asked. "That's what I asked their admiral. You know what he said? He said humans learned that killing is easy. It's showing mercy that's hard." And they spent a century learning to be better than their worst instincts. The mercenary finished his drink. "I used to think mercy was weakness. After fighting the humans, I realized I was wrong. Mercy is the privilege of the strong. Only the truly powerful can afford to show compassion. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Jinho received a communication from the Council. Another emergency. A colony ship had suffered engine failure and was drifting toward a star. They had 8 hours before the heat became lethal. Council ships were 14 hours away. "Plot intercept course," Jinho ordered without hesitation. "All speed." "Yes, sir," the navigation officer replied. As the Indomitable and its task force turned toward the emergency, Jinho felt a sense of purpose that he had never felt before. This was why they had built these ships. This was why they had trained these crews. Not to conquer, not to dominate, but to answer the call. Earth had been many things throughout its long history, warlike, divided, self-destructive. But now, finally, they had found their place among the stars. They were the guardians, the protectors, the ones who answered when someone called for help, and in the vast, dark universe that made all the difference. The message spread across the galaxy, carried by traders, diplomats, and those who had been saved. If you were in danger, if you needed help, if you called out in desperation, Earth would answer. They weren't conquerors. They weren't rulers. They were simply the ones who came when you needed them most. Earth's deadliest fleet had found its purpose, and the galaxy was safer because of it.